You know, when I was kind of rehearsing this in my mind, there were lights and there was a microphone, and it seemed a lot easier than it will be now. But
crowd cheering.
Crowd is for those of you who don't know, I'm Edward's brother. I'm the first best man. There's going to be another guy coming up in a second, Andrew. He's going to tell you he's the best man too. Don't listen to him, I'm the best man. But seriously, I'm the first of the two best men. We're going to go up. And going first has its benefits. I'm going to get my speech out of the way. I'm going to get to start boozing for real after this, hopefully. And I'm going to be the first to get to humiliate Edward, which has been sorely lacking, I feel like.
Cut it off.
Cut it off. It's over. There's been a lot of stories about how Edward met Mar and how our family met Mar, but I sort of want to articulate both of those points. I first met Mar when Edward brought her home in the summer of 2005. And I knew she was special because Edward had never brought home a girl before. In fact, I'm not sure Edward had even talked to a girl. It's really true.
Good question.
So when Mar came to our house, this was a new situation in the Krasnov household. And Mar's a smart girl. She's a smart girl. She knew it was going to be an interesting environment. And to ease the tension, she'd bring over Mel every time. Unfortunately, at that time, I couldn't tell the difference between Mar and Mel, which proved to be a problem. I think the first few meetings, I would have full conversations with Mel, and then talk to Mar later about those conversations, and vice versa.
It happens.
It happens. Sorry, guys. They're very sweet and always would just nod politely and never ask me what the heck I was talking about. But that quickly changed as Mar started coming over more, and I noticed something else changed, and that was Edward. He was becoming slightly less rude. Not slightly, but he was becoming slightly less rude. And I remember one specific instance where you guys came to visit me in college, and I saw a smile on Edward's face I hadn't seen before. There was finally a calmness in him. And I knew at that moment you were going to be here for the long run. It was when you told me my vase was too cheap and I should have spent less money on it. You remember.
Vase, huh?
Base.
And so as I thought about how to articulate this change in Edward, I did some thinking about who Edward used to be and who he is today. And some stories came to mind of who Edward used to be. The parking spot. For example, in university, Edward had the genius idea of selling parking spots. A very profitable and legitimate business. Unfortunately, Edward didn't have any parking spots to sell. So he went out and found a very nice spot that seemed to be empty day after day. Edward, being the crafty guy he is, sold this parking spot to a third party. It was a win-win. The guy got a parking spot and Edward made a nice healthy profit. Well, this was a nice plan until this third party found someone else parking in his spot. The owner of the parking spot. The parking spot which he had just paid Edward for. I can only imagine how the conversation between Edward and the other parties went once they realized what had happened. Only one more. There's a reason I'm on this side. There's only one more.
Cut it.
Wingstop. Wingstop.
Pluckers.
Pluckers.
Wingstop. Another example that comes to mind was the classic and repeated Wingstop order. Edward would invite all his friends over for wings.
So
What a
generous.
kind offer. But then, and he would order 50 wings, 50. He would order 50 wings. But when the delivery guy got to the door, he would reiterate that he hadn't ordered 50 wings and instead had ordered 15 wings. Sorry guys, you guys probably have never heard these stories. The delivery guy wouldn't have any choice but to charge Edward for the 15 wings and give him the already made 50 wings, which were in hand. What a plan. But to be fair, Mar knew of Edward's exploits from day one. She did. As the rabbi articulated, Mar and Edward met when Mar was reffing a Greek basketball game where only members of the fraternity were allowed to play. Edward had put together a ragtag team of ZBT basketball players with no members of the ZBT fraternity in order to get a slightly cheaper rate. Although none of the student IDs matched the corresponding roster sheet, Mar allowed everyone to play.
Complicit.
This was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. Mar, I think in addition to your beauty and charm, your willingness to be an accomplice in all of Edward's exploits is part of the reason why Edward and Mar make such a good match. But as I mentioned, Edward's schemes changed after he met Mar. Edward became less hardened, more understanding of people's feelings, and Mar, well, he did, just a little bit. And Mar brought out a kindness in Edward that the parking spot guy and the Wingstop guy had certainly never seen. But more importantly, he brought out a kindness that his family and friends had never seen. And the slowdown in the schemes is sort of a metaphor to me for Edward caring about us all more and being more kind.
Getting lazy.
Almost done. They haven't stopped altogether, like the fact that Edward's been sneaking into our gym for the last 20 years. 20 years. But I think the most impressive scheme today is him convincing you to join this family. No, it's going to be a slam dunk. Edward seems now solely focused on improving the lives of everyone around him and goes out of his way, in his own special way, to make things as easy as possible for his friends and family. And we owe this to you, Mar, 100%. It's true. Marissa. Mar, you look phenomenal today. In addition to giving us an improved Edward, you brought this family a lightness that we desperately were in need of. You're beautiful inside and out, and you always laugh at all my jokes, even the bad ones. I can always count on Mar for a laugh. But what really inspires me is your commitment to family. You're a fighter. You fought for our family to be a cohesive unit, and now you're seamlessly integrated into our family. I have no hesitations to call you my sister and welcome you lovingly into our family. Although, this welcoming is kind of a formality. Mar's already in the family. She attends all family dinners where she endures my dad arguing about the political flavor of the day. She talks to Nicole every single day. I would have thought that you guys might run out of content, but no. And she can even get Andrew to talk about something or anything. But in all seriousness, I've always looked up to Edward. His life has been basically a blueprint for how I want to live my life. That was not a joke. This was all a joke, and then my heading to this says, serious closing. And seeing the type of partner he's chosen is another category to add to the life blueprint. You guys' relationship is an inspiration, and I can only hope to have something similar with my partner at some point. So, to Mr. and Mrs. Krasnoff. I know, crazy, right? Words which actually haven't been heard in a while. My mom's name is Marion Rifkin, so you know that you're going to be the first Mr. and Mrs. Krasnoff in a while. I'd like to raise a glass, which I don't have one, and toast to you guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
I look forward to having all family activities with you two together forever.